We have the latest information on CM Punk and AEW. Has he had talks with AEW President Tony Khan? Is there heat between himself and Jon Moxley? Is there heat between himself and Chris Jericho? What about Kenny Omega as well? What's the reaction been to his now infamous deleted Instagram story? What did New Japan Pro Wrestling think when he showed up at Battle in the Valley? We've got all this and more in this developing news story. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrest News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. And let's get straight into the news regarding one CM Punk. And things certainly got cooking with CM Punk and All Elite Wrestling again when CM Punk posted an Instagram story on March 23rd. Of course, it was since deleted. It explained his feelings, his perspective on his return to AEW in 2022 from his broken foot injury, what led to that undisputed AEW World Championship match on Dynamite where Punk was squashed by Jon Moxley, him not being cleared at the time, his issues he was having backstage, all this and more. What is quite interesting as well, and I have to give a shout out to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, who provided a really brilliant article, an in-depth article detailing everything that's been going on with Punk since then, after brawl-out, everything, all of the details. We're going to get straight into this because it's really fascinating stuff. So let's start off talking about Jon Moxley and CM Punk. So in the post that CM Punk did, which he subsequently deleted on Instagram, he confirmed a previous report from Sean Ross Sapp from last fall that Jon Moxley was the one that pitched the idea of CM Punk losing in a quick match before their match at All Out for the AEW World Championship. Now, those familiar with the situation say that Punk had communicated that he wasn't comfortable competing in any capacity without being cleared first for the August 24 match. There had been issues regarding the creative throughout the build to the match, and Fightful had reported that there were concerns that Punk wouldn't even be at the August 17 Dynamite as well. However, Fightful have been told that special travel arrangements were made to accommodate Punk the day of the match, and Punk had at least floated the idea of additional reimbursement for the match as he was working without being cleared per his claims. Now, Fightful and Sean Ross Sapp have heard subsequently Jon Moxley and CM Punk have appeared to actually indeed have heat between each other based on those that Moxley has spoken to after Brawl Out, after that incident that happened after All Out where CM Punk brawled with the Elite backstage. Moxley helped lead a locker room meeting in the days after with Chris Jericho, who was also called a liar and a stooge by CM Punk in the Instagram post. Bryan Danielson, of course, was also another person who led the meeting. He wasn't mentioned by Punk, and they haven't heard of any heat between Danielson and Punk as of right now. Jericho and Punk, meanwhile, they shouted at each other after the brawl-out incident first took place, with Jericho calling Punk a cancer and Punk shouting back at Jericho. Now, those in AEW believe that if things came down to a Moxley or Punk situation, then AEW would pick Moxley in that decision. Punk, by all accounts, is very aware of the heat on him and the possibility of talent walking out of AEW should he return to the company, but Fightful haven't heard his feelings on the matter. Some of the heat after All Out has certainly died down since the incident in question last year, but there is plenty that still remains. Now, speaking of Punk and AEW, what's the status between Punk and All Elite Wrestling right now? Well, quite surprisingly, AEW and CM Punk have indeed had some contact. In fact, some close to CM Punk, according to Fightful Select, claim that he and Tony Khan have, quote, spoken or had a couple of meetings, though there isn't a lot of details as to what, if anything, came from said meetings. Fightful do know there was a planned meeting for mid-February that was delayed, supposedly due to the funeral of the late Jerry Jarrett. At one point, those close to Punk believed he wanted out of his contract with a non-compete, without a non-compete attached. However, in recent weeks, they believe that Punk was open to returning to AEW and, in fact, even wanted to return to the company. In an important note, though, at least one person claimed that Punk was indeed willing to apologize for the scrum portion of the All-Out evening. There was a lot of context absent from that claim, so they've just sort of said that line and there's no real context with it, specifically, i.e. who would CM Punk be willing to apologize to, or whether it would be public, whether it would be private. Of course, when CM Punk came out and went into business for himself with the Hangman Page promo, he did say the apology needs to be as loud and as public as the disrespect. Would that be a similar situation, or would it be private? Now, several people said that Punk has expressed some form of regret for that aspect of that night in general. So there is some regrets on Punk's part for how things went down on the evening after All Out in 2022. Sources, according to Fightful, have said that Punk was originally considering the potential of legal action, but haven't heard anything about that being broached in recent months. In fact, those that Fightful have spoken with felt like there had been productive progression in the opposite direction. However, sources within AEW that Fightful had spoken to lost confidence that CM Punk would be returning after the March 23rd Instagram post, which I think is kind of the same for a lot of fans. Fans that maybe thought that Punk could return to AEW saw that post and said, that feels really unlikely that he could come back. As far as his contractual status to All Elite Wrestling, CM Punk does remain under contract to AEW. Fightful have inquired as to whether or not there was ever a suspension or pay docking involved, but traditionally AEW has indeed paid wrestlers out whilst they're injured regardless. Fightful had tried to actually contact Punk himself via email inquiries about the story. He did not respond, as he's not really talking to anyone about the matter. Now, one of the sort of precursors to the brawl-out and the all-out situation was the issues he was having with Hangman Adam Page in the build to their Double or Nothing AEW World Championship match in May of last year. And according to Fightful Select, the issues with Hangman and CM Punk dated back to before their AEW Double or Nothing match, to the point where Fightful have been told that Punk ended up having a meeting with AEW officials. Fightful have been told that Punk had expressed his frustration regarding Hangman Page's comments during a promo that Punk believed referenced Colt Cabana and wasn't satisfied with the resolution or lack thereof. This led, of course, to him infamously calling out Hangman Page months later upon his return. He returned at Quake at the Lake, and the next week he came out on Dynamite, opened the show. The first thing he did was call out Hangman Page in a really awkward moment because it was unscripted. Nobody knew it was going to happen, and it was Punk seemingly leading to a receipt, or giving a receipt in his mind for what Hangman had done to him months earlier. Now, those that Fightful have heard from claim that Page makes an effort to remove himself from this situation and has tried to move past it, but some people will say you can't move past it because you were part of the issue, you were part of the problem. Now, what happens when it comes to CM Punk and his actual injury at the moment? We know he's out of action. He tore his triceps at AEW All Out before the scrum. So what's the current status on his injury? Now, those with knowledge of the situation said that CM Punk was hopeful he would be fully healthy by late January, but believed that now he'd be able to be cleared, and if not now, he would be very, very soon. There were some asking about him filming for Heel Season 2 since he posted a picture from the set recently, but actually that season reportedly wrapped up last July, so that was from another time. But CM Punk indeed is either cleared right now or very, very, very close to being cleared. So if things could get resolved, he could come back very soon, but given everything that's going on at the moment, that feels unlikely, but he could wrestle at the moment. He would be healthy and medically cleared to wrestle if he wanted to. Now, when it comes to All Out and the brawl that happened after the media scrum, look, the true accounts of Brawl-Out will never likely be known unless CM Punk and the Elite get together and explain in detail actually what happened, which is unlikely due to the legal ramifications, NDAs being signed, etc. However, Fightful have learned a little bit more about that situation. Reportedly, there were other talents who were present at the time of the brawl but did not get physically involved and therefore were not suspended by All Elite Wrestling. However, there was another production employee who ended up being struck with a chair that hadn't actually been previously revealed. They don't reveal in this article who that person is, but they do reveal that more people were present, and in reality, more people would know more details about the situation than maybe had been previously reported. Now, there were some rumors recently that CM Punk and Kenny Omega had a conversation a few days after the incident, which according to Fightful and according to Sean Ross Sapp is not true. By then, CM Punk was set for surgery. Kenny Omega already had other plans. He was planned for a tour of Japan or to promote AEW Fight Forever in Japan. Of course, that didn't happen. However, according to Sean Ross Sapp, CM Punk and Kenny Omega did have a brief conversation after the Brawl-Out fight in the immediate moments following, just not a few days after. Punk was said to have told Kenny Omega that the issue wasn't with him. Those that were nearby said the two were going to continue talking, but A Steel was still being dealt with at that point. Even those close with Punk claimed that Omega was surprisingly composed during the aftermath. Omega had been scheduled to go to Japan to the Tokyo Game Show to do some work for AEW, but due to the suspension, he ended up just taking the personal trip over there instead because he couldn't actually officially work for AEW in an official capacity due to the suspension. Now, obviously, CM Punk showed up recently at a New Japan Pro Wrestling show, Battle in the Valley, the one which Mercedes Moné made her in-ring debut against Kairi. Now, those that Fightful spoke to in New Japan Pro Wrestling were actually not aware that CM Punk was even going to attend their Battle in the Valley show, but said they would have welcomed him regardless. Sources in New Japan just didn't want AEW to think they were conspiring against their partner. That was all cleared up very quickly. There's no issues between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're doing the Forbidden Door 2 show later on this year in Canada, so it's fine, but they just wanted to make sure to AEW, we had no idea he was going to come, and AEW were like, we don't really care. The only people that had knowledge CM Punk was going to be at Battle in the Valley, the New Japan show, were Lars Fredrickson, who he went with, Louis D'Angeli, who is a close friend of CM Punk, formerly Louis Dangerously in ECW. He's the current VP of marketing for Anthem, and I know what people will say, does that mean CM Punk's going to Impact Wrestling? No, he's not. And Rob Naylor as well knew he was going to be there. Fredrickson had asked Rocky Romero if he and a friend could attend the show back in January. And it was actually set up without New Japan Pro Wrestling knowing it'd actually be CM Punk with him on that night. Fightful have been told that Punk wanted to go to the show and support Mercedes Moné's debut match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that's kind of the latest when it comes to that. So there's quite a lot to take from that. You know, he does have heat with Jon Moxley. He obviously clearly has heat with Jericho. He has had talks with AEW and Tony Khan. There was a meeting planned for February that got pushed back. I don't know if that's happened since then. And he still, I guess, has issues with Hangman Page. But also as well, he is or is very close to being cleared to return to action. So had the incident not happened this week, I would have said that it would have been entirely possible that Punk could have actually shown up very soon on AEW programming if they could have put their issues to one side. Now, I think it's really, really up in the air. Anything certainly is possible. Now, a lot of people are focusing, obviously, on that Instagram story he did, and following the quickly deleted Instagram rant from CM Punk this week, it may appear, according to some, and again, the sources here are very questionable, that Punk may have been instructed to delete the post, possibly out of legal preservation, shall we say. Now, Brian Last, who is the co-host of the Jim Cornette Experience with Jim Cornette, and again, I know, took to Twitter to highlight some very pertinent sections, allegedly from AEW's Talent Playbook. Again, this is allegedly, so whether or not they're actually in the playbook or not, we'll have to see. But he posted 2 excerpts from the playbook which highlighted separate sections Punk's comments could have potentially violated. The more interesting of the 2 regarding the health of AEW talents and their ability to comment on their health publicly. Now, the playbook lays out that talent should clear any comments on their health with AEW CEO Tony Khan, AEW's head physician, and AEW's PR team. The guideline further emphasizes that talent health is a sensitive area, that they'd rather have any statements come from official sources. These policies are said to be in place in an attempt to ensure that all information coming out is factual, relevant, and not speculatory. Additional playbook excerpts posted by Last covered certain kinds of public comments that are subject to disciplinary action. The comment types encompassed revealing confidential information, public criticism of AEW, and most relevant to Punk's comments, public criticism of fellow team members. Punk's previous comments would clearly fly in the face of the policies posted as he commented on his health and publicly criticized Jon Moxley's idea for their AEW World Championship unification match. Further than the criticism of Moxley, Punk flatly called Jericho a liar and a stooge. Now, whether or not Punk's comments were deleted due to their possible violation of AEW's policies is unknown. We can get the screenshots in question up on the screen here, so you can see all of these things about, you know, the comments that you are and aren't allowed to do in interviews in public and public comments and on social media. Criticism of AEW regarding the management team, TV partners, sponsors, all that kind of stuff. Accusing ownership, management, or any member of the talent roster of acting with bias. Questioning their integrity, and again it continues about directing abusive, profane or threatening language towards AEW, public criticism of fellow team members, unauthorized media engagement, all that kind of stuff. The issue is, when it comes to all of this, if this is what they were really going to take CM Punk to task for, and this is what they were going to fire him for, you might as well fire the majority of the AEW roster, because they're all doing it. Darby Allin just did a promo the other week on Dynamite talking about AEW talent complaining about their spot on Twitter, disparaging people on Twitter. Andrade said about Sammy Guevara. Guevara said about Andrade, Eddie Kingston, etc., etc. They've all done it about each other. So I don't think, honestly, you can use that as a real, actual excuse to fire CM Punk. Much rather the brawl would probably be the easier method if you really wanted to get CM Punk fired for anything. Now, Punk also as well was actually commenting on a WWE storyline last night. I don't know if you've seen this. Obviously, Rey Mysterio, finally, his match against his son, Dominic Mysterio, has been confirmed for WrestleMania 39. And he posted a post on his Instagram, Rey Mysterio, saying, "Every man has his limits. Don't forget, she's not only your mother, but my wife." And a picture of Mysterio talking down to his son, Dominic, who's on the floor. CM Punk liked the post, and he also commented saying, quote, "Good for you, Rey. I've wanted to punch him for 13 years, referring to their feud in 2010, which led to CM Punk getting his head shaved bald as well. Of course, CM Punk and Rey Mysterio faced off at WrestleMania, Extreme Rules, and Over the Limit as well. And his family were involved in that. Rey Mysterio actually led to a segment on SmackDown where the Straight Edge Society leader at the time, CM Punk, was shouting at Dominic Mysterio and berating him in the ring. So people said, "Oh, does this mean he wants to go back to WWE?" I don't think so. I think it's just Punk. Punk is good friends with Rey Mysterio because of their feud way back when, and I'm sure it's just Punk being Punk. But Punk knows how to get people talking about him as well, and a lot of people are certainly at the moment. So there you go, guys. It's latest when it comes to CM Punk. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.